It says I'm live now. And at my age, it's always an encouraging thing to read. Happy back to normal time day. I hope you've set your clock correctly. Now, I know that they're talking about keeping it at daylight saving times all the time, so to avoid screwing people up. It'd screw people up even less if they just leave it normal time all the time. It screws up sleep patterns. It's proven that it has takes a toll on health, everything else. Why would they screw with time? I mean, I have a body bio clock. Okay, I'm a Cancerian. We think about these digestive matters. We obsess with them, and to regulate your bodily functions at an hour later or earlier at the sweep of a legislative hand is outrageous. Happy Sunday School. Welcome to Sunday School, everyone. We are continuing our reading and digressions on Crowley's notes on the nature of the astral plane. And it's really getting good, okay? At least in my opinion. And every time I read it, like lots of Crowley stuff, it's like a different book every time I read it. So, and there's something else I'd like to add, sort of as a Sunday school treat, if we have time, and if I could just shut up and start reading where we left off. I'm going to read the paragraph just before we left off yesterday. Each and every man, therefore, that will be a magician must explore the universe for himself. This is preeminently the case in the matter of the astral plane. Because the symbols are so sensitive, nothing is easier than to suggest visions or to fashion phantasms to suit one's ideas. It is obviously impossible to communicate with an independent intelligence, the one real object of astral research, if one allows one's imagination to surround one with courtiers of one's own creation. If one expects one's visions to resemble those of the Master Therian, like I was discussing yesterday about reading the 30 visions from the vision of the voice, and then comparing your own Enochian visions to them, or worse, allowing them to influence your own Enochian visions. If one expects one's visions to resemble those of the Master Therian, they are only too likely to do so. And if one's respect for him induces one to accept such visions as authentic, one is being false to one's own soul. The visions themselves will avenge it. The true guide being gone, the seer will stray into a wilderness of terror where he is tricked and tortured. He will invoke his idol, the Master Therian, and fashion in his image a frightful phantasm who will mock him in his misery until his mind stagger and fall, and madness, swooping upon his carrion, blast his eyes with the horror of seeing his master dissolve into that appalling hallucination, the vision of the demon Crowley. I know Crowley appreciated having students, and he appreciated, you can tell in the back of part of his very self-centered head, he enjoyed the Guru Chila master-student thing, but he also could just absolutely see through the self-delusions of his own students and try as best he can in his sort of natural sadomasochistic character, half-ass enjoy their shortcomings. But I digress. Remember then always, but especially when dealing with the astral plane, that man's breath stirs the feather of truth. What one sees and hears is real in a way, whether it be itself or no, distorted by one's own desires or created by one's personality. It's still real, in other words, in its own way. There is no touchstone of truth. The authentic Nakael is indistinguishable from the image of the magician's private idea of Nakael, so far as he is concerned. The stronger one is to create, the more readily the astral light responds. Nice. The stronger one is to create, the more readily the astral responds and coagulates creatures of this kind. Not that such creation is necessarily an error, but it is another branch of one's work. One cannot obtain outside help from inside sources. One must use precautions similar to those recommended in the chapter on divination in Theory and Practice here. The magician may go on for a long time being fooled and flattered by the astrals that he himself modified or manufactured. Their natural subservience to him will please him, poor ape. They will pretend to show him marvelous mysteries, pageants of beauty and wonder, unspeakably splendid. He will incline to accept them as true for the very reason that they are images of himself, idealized by imagination. But his real progress will stop dead. These phantasms will prevent him from coming into contact with independent intelligences from whom he alone can learn anything new. He will become increasingly interested in himself. Imagine himself to be attaining one initiation after another. His ego will expand unchecked till he seem to himself to have heaven at his feet. Yet all this will be nothing but his fool's face of Narcissus smirking up from the pool that will drown him. Error of this kind on the astral plane in quite ordinary visions, with no apparent moral import, may lead to the most serious mischief. Firstly, mistakes mislead. To pollute one's view of Jupiter by permitting the influence of Venus to distort it may end in finding oneself at odds with Jupiter later on in some crisis in one's work. Secondly, the habit of making mistakes and leaving them uncorrected grows upon one. He who begins by, quote, spelling Yeshua with a resh may end up by writing the name of the dweller on the threshold by mistake for that of his angel. Lastly, magic is a pyramid, built layer by layer, the work of the body of light, with the technique of yoga. This is the foundation of the whole. One's apprehension of the astral plane must be accurate, for angels, archangels, and gods are derived therefrom by analysis. One must have pure materials if one wishes to brew pure beer. If one have an incomplete and incorrect view of the universe, how can one find out its laws? Thus, original omission or error tends to extend to the higher planes. Suppose a magician, invoking Saul, were persuaded by a plausible spirit of Saturn that he was a solar intelligence required, and bade him eschew human love if he would attain to the knowledge of his holy guardian angel. And suppose that his will and that the angel's nature were such that the crux of their formula was lyrical exaltation. Apart from the regular tests made at the time of the integrity of the spirit, the magician must make a careful record of every vision, omitting no detail. He must then make sure that it tallies with every point in the correspondence in Book 777 and in Liber D, which is Sephireth. Should he find, for instance, that having invoked Mercury, his vision contains names whose numbers are martial, or elements proper to Pisces, let himself set himself most earnestly to discover the source of error and to correct it, to prevent its reoccurrence. I'm going to digress here for a second. The mind is a wonderful, mysterious thing. And when you start to practice magic and deal with magical exercises and such, it's very, very easy to be impressed by the reaction, by the seemingly success of a magical operation, and be so blinded, if you will, by the glamour of what appears to be a very successful magical operation, that you forget to, or it's easy to overlook that the details of say, a very successful vision or appearance of a spirit is not tallying with the nature of the spirit that you were intending to gain contact with and get information from. You're so blown away that anybody showed up. It'd be like just for fun, you open your front door at 12 midnight and scream, "I want 3 fish tacos! Come bring fish tacos to my door." And 5 minutes later, there's a knock at the door, and there's a guy at the door with a bag of Italian food or hamburgers or hot dogs. Okay, you're so blown away that your invocation succeeded in bringing the spirit of food delivery, that it didn't matter to you if the food wasn't fish tacos, but it was hot dogs. and you say, oh, what a great magician I am. No, something went wrong. Something in your delivery, something in your invocation, something in your back of your mind, whatever. That's the point. The last thing struggling, fledgling magicians expect is success. And you're so blown away when you get it, it's often the case that you fail to recognize if your success was truly what you were going for. Okay, but that's my little digression. But these tests, as implied above, will not serve to detect personation by self-suggested phantasms. Unless one's aura be a welter of muddled symbols beyond recognition, the more auto-hypnotic the vision is, the more smoothly it satisfies the seer's standards. There's nothing to puzzle him or oppose him, so he spins out his story with careless contempt of criticism. He can always prove himself right. If the Kabbalah can always be stretched, the red being so nearly orange, which is really a shade of yellow, and yellow is a complement of green which merges into blue, what harm if a fiend in vermilion appears instead of an angel in azure? The true and final test of the truth of one's vision is their value. The most glorious experience on the astral plane, let it dazzle and thrill as it may, is not necessarily in accordance with the true will of the seer. If not, though it be never so true objectively, it is not true for him because it is not useful for him. Said we not a while ago that truth was no more than the most convenient manner of the statement? It may intoxicate and exalt the seer. It may inspire and fortify him in every way. It may throw light upon most holy mysteries, yet withal be no more than an interpretation of the individual to himself, the formula not of Abraham, but of Onan. In reference to Abraham was told to multiply the shit out of humanity. His seed will exceed the stars in heaven. And Onan enjoyed himself by himself. These plastic portraits of the artist as a young man are well enough for those who have heard, quote, know thyself. They are necessary even to assist that analysis of one's nature which the probationer of the AA is sworn to accomplish. But love is the law, love under will, and Our Lady Nuit is divided for love's sake, for the chance of union. These mere mirages are therefore not works of magic according to the law of Thelema. The true magic of Horus requires the passionate union of opposites. And that's where we're going to leave the reading today. I'm going to read you something fictitious, okay? Fictitious from the mind of Lon. And it's the imagining of MacGregor Mathers, summoning Beelzebub to affect changes in the behavior and the character of certain Golden Dawn initiates and members who were in revolt against him. So even though it's fiction based sort of on history. Mathers, in full magical regalia, enters the room. He holds a black wooden wand about 4 feet long in one hand, and his translation of the Book of the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage in the other. He sets the book and wand on the altar and lights the lamp and kindles the incense. He kneels before the altar and mumbles a prayer that is first inaudible, then rises to a crescendo at the end. Hear me and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the aether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. He gets up, opens the book, and tears out a magic square. He then steps forward through the double doors to the sandbox on the balcony. He kneels near the box and carefully places the magic square in the middle of the sand. In the name of the true and living God Most High, who created the world and all things in heaven and hell, do I now summon from the pit the great Prince Beelzebub. At the word Beelzebub, he draws a dagger from his robe and slashes the palm of his left hand. He holds the bleeding hand over the sandbox and allows the dripping blood to completely soak the magic square. The temple room and balcony shake violently. The sandbox stops shaking, but we see movement under the sand. Now, swelling from the center, a cone rises like a volcano, and we hear the sound of 1,000,000 buzzing flies. Mathers gets up and backs several feet into the temple room. A huge black fly now breaks the surface of the sand. It grows to the size of a full-grown hog and stares threateningly at Mathers with its huge segmented eyes. The buzzing noise is deafening. Mathers screams at the creature. "Come not in that form, I command you. Put on human visage, or else back to the pit. Human form." Instantly, Beelzebub transforms into the unthreatening image of an elderly vicar of the Anglican Church. Mathers tries to speak, but nothing is coming out. The vicar, Beelzebub, however, seems anxious to talk. It speaks in a calm, sweet voice. "You look surprised to see me. You came so quickly. I thought a supreme prince would be more reluctant." "Not at all. The greater the devil, the more pleased to be invited." Mathers, remembering his proper role in the ceremony, barks roughly, "I am a great and terrible magician." "You are a great and terrible magician. I am armed with the authority of the Most High God and mine holy guardian angel. You are armed with the authority of the Most High God, and Beelzebub looks to the left and to the right. Seeing he's alone in the room with Mathers, he smiles most pleasantly. Your holy guardian angel. Mathers extends his wand through the open windows. I am your master, and in token of your loyalty you will lay your hands upon my rod and swear obedience unto me. Beelzebub strokes his chin thoughtfully like a good vicar. Where does it say I must do that? In the book of the sacred magic. Beelzebub smiles and respectively reaches both his hands to touch the rod as ordered. I see. Beelzebub pauses for a moment, then violently grabs the wand with both hands. He jerks Mathers within inches of the sandbox. We hear again the sound of buzzing flies. Beelzebub's head reverts to that of a fly, and he sticks his hideous face in Mathers' face and gives it one huge lick with a protruding tongue. Then, in a very loud and cynical voice, You mean your translation of the book? Mathers is terrified. The thought had never occurred to him that something very important might have been lost in the translation. Beelzebub releases the wand and returns to human form. Mathers falls back, wiping the stinking fly juice from his face. He can barely compose himself. I have a job for you. Speak. I have enemies. What that might loosely have in connection with today's talk on the astral and self-delusion, you may or may not see the connection there, but it doesn't matter. It's Sunday. You got the whole rest of the weekend ahead of you. If you're from Philadelphia, you have my condolences on your World Series loss. If you're from Houston, you have my congratulations. It was a wonderful game. Anyway, that's it. Sunday school is over. We'll see you tomorrow. Now, on the 9th of November, Constance and I will be celebrating, or at least we'll be observing, our 55th wedding anniversary. Now, I know that, and everybody probably knows that the 55th wedding anniversary is the Emerald. The Emerald wedding anniversary. But what's that?
So we're having a spirulina drink. Goodbye. I just walked by. I'm sorry.
Thank you, dear. We're having a spirulina drink, and we're going to sprinkle matcha tea on our ice cream. But if you're thinking about sending us a big bag of precious emeralds, we could use the cash a lot more. That's green too, okay? Anyway, tomorrow's another day. Continue to be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.